Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
At a Gire residence, a low-spirited Connor fell asleep drunk after a gathering with friends. So, he did not pick up Ellen's phone call. Selena was in a foul mood too. She told the entire story to Olivia, who could not believe her ears. "Are you sure that your boss saved Ellen?" "Yeah. It's like they knew each other before this. They even had dinner together." Olivia was shocked to the core. "Is this fate? Ellen and Mr. Presgrave are acquainted?" "That Mr. Presgrave, who received a heart donation from her brother." "Mom, is something on your mind?" Selena gazed at her mother curiously. "Nothing, I was just thinking if he did that by chance." "No. I wonder what Ellen did to gain President Presgrave's favor." Selena saw it with her own eyes, hence the legit anger. "You're overthinking. Why would your boss fall for her?" Despite her words, Olivia feared that something else would happen. Things will get complicated if President Presgrave finds out that Ellen's brother was the donor. Not only will he look after her, but he will also hold us responsible. I hope Ellen won't discover the truth forever. Meanwhile, Ellen had arrived at Jared's place. She gaped at the sight of the massive mansion situated halfway up the hillside. This must be the life of the rich. Someone poor like me won't be able to dream of living in a mega mansion like this. "This place is huge," she exclaimed. "Do you live alone?" "For now. My parents and sister live abroad." Jared led her to the parlor. She could not help the constant exclamation inside her as she deemed it lucky to be able to stay at such a place for the night. "I'll take you to your room." He brought her to the third floor, heading to one of the guest rooms. "You'll be staying here." He then pointed at another door. "This is my room. You can call me if you're afraid." "I'm not afraid." The place gave her a sense of security. "Okay. You should get some rest." Only then did he realize that she came here empty-handed. "I'll get some clothes from my sister's room." "It's fine." Ellen's face became red. "It's all right. She's nice." Jared entered her sister's closet to search for clothes. She heaved a sigh. The incident still sent chills down her spine, casting a pall of cloud upon her. "Do I have to live a life in hiding from now on?" Jared found a set of pajamas and casual clothes for her before leaving. Ellen shut the door while recalling Garrett's actions, which made her worry about the following days. "What am I gonna do? Am I going to live in harassment forever? Are they not gonna give up if I don't give them the money?" Fortunately, she encountered Jared. It was her misfortune for having such relatives, but he was her lucky star. In the meantime, he sat on the couch in his room and mused over the incident that occurred, thinking of a plan to solve Ellen's problem. He did not wish anything unfortunate to happen to that girl. He felt the purpose to protect her ever since he met her, yet he did not know why. He placed his hand over his chest to feel his heart, which raced unusually fast whenever she was in trouble. That eve, Ellen had a good night's sleep and did not forget about work. When she was ready in the morning, she opened the door, but her mind blanked out. How am I supposed to go to work? It would take a lot of time just to descend a mountain, let alone a neighborhood for the rich. The bus stop was located far away from here and going to work on foot was definitely out of the question. Ellen wondered if she should take the day off since she wasn't able to go to work. Ironically, she was currently living in her boss' place. As such, she could only head back into the villa hall. Right as she walked past the doorway, she heard footsteps coming from the staircase. Subconsciously, she turned over, only to find herself stupefied as a man in black, stunning and classy, was descending the steps, and a glance of him in his extraordinariness took her breath away. Upon seeing Ellen carrying her bag and coming into the villa, Jared subconsciously revealed a grin. I'll send you in a bit. Awkwardly, Ellen nodded. After all, a mighty boss such as Jared would normally only go to work past 10. Yet, in order to send her, he brought himself to wake up at 8. Then, after Jared brought her to the underground garage, she peered at the dozen opulent top-grade cars in the luxurious underground garage. At once, she secretly grew dumbfounded. With such a collection, he must be a sports car enthusiast. This time, he picked a sports car. He then opened the door to the passenger seat and invited her to get in. Inside, the control panel reflected the wildest dreams a man could have, and the flamboyant sound of the engine revving resembled the roar of a charging beast. It only took Jared 20 minutes to reach the company. Once Ellen alighted from the car, she waved at him. "Thank you, President Presgrave." Jared merely responded with a nod and drove toward the parking lot. After speedily finishing up her breakfast in the cafeteria nearby the company, Ellen went straight to her post. Although she received a sum of relocation funds, she would never give up her current hard-earned job. Essentially, she would feel more at ease with her money saved up. Of course, she was never one to splurge ever since she was a child. She then began to tidy up her post while sorting the documents presented to the reception on behalf of a senior who had been looking after her. After the cleanup, she then tended to other tasks. Right at that moment, a woman walked past her post and sneakily took a set of documents before throwing it into the trash can with her back facing the camera. Soon, Ellen's co-workers clocked in for work one after another. The next moment, her reception desk received a call demanding certain documents. "Hi. Speaking from the finance department. I believe there was an urgent document for the finance department sent to your post earlier. Can you please send it over to me?" Immediately, Ellen searched through the documents she sorted in the morning, but she couldn't find any that were for the finance department, after which she informed the caller about it. "How is that possible? My client literally placed the document on desk number 8 your desk earlier. Did you lose it? The document contains information of utmost importance, and I assure you, you cannot afford to lose it." The caller was instantaneously infuriated. "I'm sorry. I'll look for it again. 10 minutes. I need it for the meeting soon." The caller angrily hung up as soon as they were finished. In that instant, Ellen grew somewhat panicked. "I placed all the documents I received in the morning in the cabinet right here. Why can't I find it?" In the meantime, someone revealed a fascinated grin as they gazed at her scouring hectically. After a thorough search, Ellen was still unable to find the requested document. Eventually, the caller furiously dashed to her desk. It was a veteran in her 30s. With a face filled with rage, she stood in front of her and rebuked, "Do you receptionists know how to do your job? How do you manage to lose a document? I'm going to file a complaint against you. We're deeply sorry about that." She's a newcomer, and she's still trying to get the hang of her job. Standing beside Ellen, Olive, another company veteran, attempted to defend her. "That is even more absurd for a newcomer. How did you even manage to make it into Presgrave Group? Is it your charming face? Did you make it by some shameful means? With such incompetence, you actually wish to receive high pay working here? How ludicrous." "I am terribly sorry," Ellen apologized. "And what can sorry do? I'll generously allow you another hour. If you still failed to find it, I'll seriously take it to the general manager and have you fired." The veteran did not hold back with her reprimands. Watching Ellen being scolded savagely, the other employees couldn't help but glance at her with sympathy. Her eyes grew somewhat red as she was strenuously holding back her tears. Shortly after, as she was bending over to dispose of some trash, she unexpectedly saw a folder of documents in the trash can. Surprised, she reached out to grab the folder. "Isn't this what the finance department was looking for?" I found it. At once, Ellen was relieved. What? How is it in the trash can? Olive, who was beside her, asked. Ellen, too, was puzzled. I'm sure that I sorted all of the folders earlier, so why is there one in the trash can under the desk? Anyway, be careful not to repeat the mistake next time. If she's really to report you, you'll really be dismissed, Olive warned. Ellen nodded. She also forbade herself from repeating such a mistake in the future. Thereupon, she personally delivered the documents to the veteran employee from the finance department, only to catch Olivia complaining and throwing shades at her to their coworkers. It really baffles me how such useless workers get into the company. What a disgrace. Sadly, Ellen could only bear it through. After returning to her post, her phone rang, and when she saw who the caller was, her heart skipped a beat. Apparently, it was Lilac. Swiftly, she accepted the call. Aunt Lilac. Ellie, your Uncle Garrett didn't scare you when he was drunk last night, did he? Ellen immediately answered, Aunt Lilac, please tell him not to do that again, or I'm going to call the cops. Ellie, you're quite close with your boss, right? Can you put in a good word for your uncle? He's in trouble. Dazed and confused, Ellen asked, what trouble? He was sued, and now he has to pay $1 million for the car's reparation. Upon realization, Ellen uttered in dismay, is the money for our president's car reparation? She remembered how Garrett picked up a rock and whacked Jared's car numerous times with it. It must be extremely costly to repair such an expensive car. Aunt Lilac, you should let Uncle Garrett deal with the problem himself. I don't think I can contribute in any way. Ellen had no intention of being a good person again. Besides, it was entirely Garrett's responsibility to reap what he sowed. I beg of you, Ellie. Help your uncle out. When Lilac finished, another woman's voice was heard. Ellie, it's your Aunt Erin here. Your Uncle Garrett was indeed at fault yesterday, but can you please speak up for him? There's no way our family can afford $1 million. In response, Ellen sternly stated, Aunt Erin, I frankly can't help you here. My boss and I are merely a superior and an employee. Besides, it is only reasonable that Uncle Garrett compensates after having destroyed someone else's car. Ellie, help us out here, would you? We will stop asking you for the relocation fund, and we assure not to trouble you anymore in the future. Is that fine for you? I'm sorry, but my hands are tied. Ellen sounded very persistent. Furthermore, there was no reason for her to beg for mercy. She was already remorseful enough given that she was the cause of Jared's car getting damaged. Meanwhile, gloom engulfed Garrett's place as he was sent an insurance bill earlier this morning, in addition to a lawyer's letter that clearly stipulated $1 million for the car's reparation fee. He never expected to have gone into a frenzy after getting himself drunk and ending up owing a compensation fee of $1 million. Furthermore, it was precisely stated in the lawyer's letter that he was to pay for the car's reparation fee within 3 days or legal actions would be taken against him. The Andino siblings were all present then. Simultaneously, they felt unfair for being unable to get their hands on the relocation fund and helpless toward their eldest brother's trouble. Garrett was grasping his head. His son was about to graduate from university, and if he, as the father, was to hold any criminal record, his son's future career would be doomed. Why don't we look for Connor and have him talk it out with Ellen? I'm sure her boss purchased the most deluxe insurance for each of his cars, so all we have to do is have her beg and make her boss acquire the claim with his own insurance, Ajax suggested. Right. Ellen only needs to say a word and the entire problem would be solved. How are we going to look for $1 million anyway? Right at that moment, a black sedan stopped by the entrance of Garrett's grocery store. From within, a middle-aged man got out and asked with a stern face, "Who is Garrett Andino?" "I am Garrett." Garrett sprung up from his seat. "I am here to negotiate with you in our boss' stead." "And your boss is?" Mr. Jared Presgrave, president of Presgrave Group. Oh, yes. Good day to you. Immediately, Garrett welcomed the middle-aged man with passion and not a trace of disrespect. There was nothing but gratification in his eyes. Our boss has expressed that, as long as you stop pestering Miss Rice, he shan't pursue the car's reparation fee any further, but he shall still retain the right to pursue the matter. Do you understand? The middle-aged man was Dean Tilley, and he was Jared's personal assistant who dealt with Jared's private matters. Instantly, thoughts arose in the Andino's minds. At the same time, the overwhelming weight in Garrett's heart vanished, after which he hastily answered, "Yes, of course. I did some unspeakable things when I was drunk last night. I assure you that we the Andinos will stop troubling Ellen, and I will definitely fulfill my part of the promise as long as your boss no longer pursues my obligation. Garrett, the fault is your own. Why are we dragged into your promise as well?" Nicole scoffed. Hearing that, Dean turned to her and warned, "Ellen Rice is under Mr. Presgrave's protection. Should any of you Andinos dare to bother her in the future, he will not go easy on you, and if any of you dare meddle with Miss Rice relocation fund, you should get ready for prison." Dean's warning instantly startled the Andinos. Never had they expected Ellen had found herself such an enormous pillar of support. After Dean departed, the Andinos got into a quarrel right away. The matter with the relocation fund left a crack in the Andino siblings' relationship, as though there was a grave family feud. Seeing that, Lilac couldn't help but shed a tear in helplessness. In the afternoon, Ellen received a text message, which she assumed to be a spam message at a glance, but to her surprise, the sender was Jared. "I've dealt with the Andinos for you. Nobody will trouble you anymore." Reading the text, Ellen was overwhelmed with emotions as her eyes were dampened thanks to the sentiments. She had no idea how to repay Jared's deeds as she replied, "Thank you so much, President Presgrave. I promise to repay you at the first opportunity." "No need. Just focus on your work." "I certainly will," Ellen replied. All of a sudden, the phone on her desk rang, after which she answered, "Good day, you're speaking to Presgrave Group's reception." "Ellen, please come to the Human Resource Department manager's office." Ellen was taken aback to receive a call from the Human Resource Department manager. After informing Olive about it, she went straight upstairs. Soon, she anxiously entered the HR manager's office, wondering if the employee of the finance department she encountered earlier had made a complaint about her. However, Ellen saw no signs of anger from the lady manager as she merely took a look at her, after which the manager pulled out a form. "Fill this form out and sign it." Peering at the employee's living quarters application form, Ellen subconsciously blinked and asked, "Miss Curry, what form is this?" "It's one of the accommodation benefits the company offers to its employees, and you're one of the few selected to enjoy this benefit. Fill it out, and you'll receive a key once you're done." Finished, the manager continued observing her. Essentially, such a benefit was not open for application to ordinary employees as only manager-level employees were eligible to apply for it. Moreover, the house assigned to her was a luxurious benefit specifically designed for those of director level and above. Seriously? They picked me? Ellen was pleasantly surprised. Despite letting out a chuckle, the manager wondered how oblivious Ellen was to her own luck. But of course, the higher-ups stated that she was not to disclose anything more than that. "Indeed, but you are obligated not to reveal the matter to anyone else. Now, you may simply move into the house." "Got it. Thank you, Miss Curry." Ellen was extremely grateful. In response, the manager bitterly grinned. "Why is she thanking me? She should be thanking the boss himself. Without his signature, who would have dared to make such a decision?" After filling out the form, Ellen claimed a bunch of keys, as well as a card with an address to an apartment on it. Now, she could officially move into the new home the company arranged for her. As Ellen was eager to share the good news with Jared, she sent him a text. Good news! I was selected to move into the employees' living quarters. Really? Congratulations! I don't have to look for a new place anymore. I'm so happy. Wanna have dinner tonight? It's on me. Next time, perhaps. I have something else on tonight. Okay, Ellen beamed. I'll have to adjust according to the big boss time, then. After getting off work, Ellen speedily went home to pack up her clothes and some important belongings, before grabbing a cab to the apartment she was assigned to. After settling the move-in procedure with the neighborhood's management, a lady from the management enthusiastically helped her carry her bags to the floor of her unit. Soon, the elevator stopped at the 12th floor. Right as Ellen entered the apartment, she was thoroughly dumbfounded. She never expected that the employees of Presgrave Group got to live in such sumptuous, extortionate homes. As such, she reckoned that the rooms must be smaller. After all, it was meant to contain one employee only. Regardless, she was blown away by every facility from the hall to the upper stories. And when she finally reached her unit, the lady from the management left. Grabbing the keys from her bag, Ellen then opened the door, and right after she pulled the door open, she saw a lavish porch, after which she entered through the doorway, only to find herself stupefied. She was stunned for quite a while, unable to collect herself. Shockingly, it was an extravagant apartment that was roughly 2,000 square feet, ornamented by French windows, opulent couches, mesmerizing crystal chandeliers, and a massive TV. She blinked her eyes repeatedly before grabbing her keys to verify the unit number, thinking, I must have gotten to the wrong unit, right? How do I, a mere receptionist, deserve such grand treatment? Nonetheless, the unit number wasn't mistaken, just like everything else. This was the very unit the company arranged for her. As such, she suspected that the company must have made some error. They must have accidentally prepared such a grand apartment instead of a simple unit. That must be it. I'll have to refer to Miss Curry tomorrow so that I don't waste the crucial resources of the company. After all, to her, a simple single-bedroom unit was more than enough. Meanwhile, at Connor's place, having heard about Garrett's matter, Olivia grew immensely frustrated. She never expected that Ellen would be so bold as to have Jared defend her and deal with the Andino's desire to seize her relocation fund. Initially, she wanted a slice of the cake, but now that the Andinos could no longer obtain the fund, there was no way she could have it. Nevertheless, what worried her the most was how Jared would react to the passing of Ellen's brother given the time Ellen and he had been friends. By then, Jared would very soon find out that Ellen did not receive the compensation of $100 million back then, as Olivia and the rest had been fully enjoying the benefit for the past 16 years, which Jared would definitely be infuriated to find out. Olivia grew more panicked as she thought about it. She couldn't help but shut the door in the middle of the night and dragged her husband over to talk about it. Connor, why do you think young Master Jared is so committed to protecting Ellen? Does he already know of her identity? Hearing that, Connor was startled, after which he hastily asked, Lena didn't tell anyone about this, did she? Lena doesn't even know about this. I'm worried that, after seeing young Master Jared's wealth and influence, Ellen might try to seduce him by any means. As things develop, Ellen might tell him about her brother's death, and if that were to raise his suspicion, he would certainly look into it. Consequently, we won't be able to run away from this. Besides, if this were to get out, the entire world would be shaming us. At once, Connor, too, grew hasty. He had been feeling guilty lately, and the mere thought of the consequences scared him. What do you suggest we do, then? Why don't we find a partner for Ellen and get her married as soon as possible? By then, young Master Jared would lose his interest in her. Since you're her uncle, you should be in charge of her romantic future. Connor gave his wife's idea a thought and reckoned that it was reasonable. He then nodded. You're right. I can be in charge of her romantic future. That's right. So, we should look for a boy from a good family to woo Ellen as soon as possible. Since Ellen hasn't been exposed to the world much, she might just agree to get married right away. Olivia was immersed in her imagination. After pondering for a bit, he stated, I've got a friend. His son is 26 this year, and he seems to be looking for a wife. Perhaps I could introduce Ellen to him. You should do that, then. We'll match them up by then and have her married to him. Olivia was relieved by the future she fantasized about. Meanwhile, in another room, Selena no longer had the energy to do anything. Whenever the thought of Ellen and Jared's relationship arose in her mind, she would behave as though she lost her source of happiness, feeling that no matter how marvelous of a life she led or how excellent her job was, she could never be as happy as Ellen, who got to enjoy Jared's care. The next morning, Ellen came to the company early. Being the diligent person she was, she wiped the surface of the desks around her even though the janitor had done that before her, perfecting the cleanliness by tidying up the desks and leaving behind a satisfying sight. At 9:30, she took the opportunity to visit the Human Resource Department and looked for the lady manager who arranged her accommodation. The manager was surprised to see her knocking on her doors and entering her office. How may I help you? Excuse me, Miss Curry. Has there been some kind of mistake in the living quarter the company arranged for me? Ellen sternly inquired. What's wrong? Could you not find it yesterday? It's not that. I've found it, but the room is too big and lavish. Why am I, a mere receptionist, assigned to such an extravagant unit? Ellen genuinely hoped that the company was mistaken. Hearing that, Joanna, the manager, immediately laughed aloud. It was her first time seeing someone complaining about the spaciousness of the living quarter assigned to them. Ellen, I absolutely assure you that there is no mistake. That was indeed the living quarter we have arranged for you, so spare the doubt and settle in at ease. But the unit is too big for me. Are there not smaller ones? Well, that is the benefit our company offers. There are no smaller units. Just remain there. You just have to continue working hard to repay the company. At once, Ellen was dazed for a few seconds, after which she nodded. Understood. Thank you, Miss Curry. Joanna watched as Ellen left, before heaving a sigh. Oh, she just doesn't realize how fortunate she is. With that, Ellen returned to the reception, and it didn't take long until she saw Selena and a few of her co-workers walking in a group. When Selena saw Ellen, cunning flashed across her eyes, after which she hastily grabbed the cup of coffee in her hand and walked toward Ellen. With utmost enthusiasm, she greeted, Morning, Ellie. Here, I got you some coffee. Thank you, Lena, but I had my cup earlier. Ellen tactfully refused her offer. What's wrong? Why are you being so courteous to me? Are you still mad at me? Selena questioned. Ellen shook her head. No, I'm not. Ellie, where are you currently staying? I rented an apartment by myself, Ellen answered. Really? Then perhaps I should go hang out at your place sometimes. Selena attempted to build a sisterly relationship with Ellen so that she could make things work between her and Jared. Sure. Ellen couldn't reject her right away, though she didn't want anyone to visit her new place either. As the next day would be the weekend, the reception crew was rather joyous since Pressgrave Group's best benefit to its employees was the 2-day break during the weekend. As Ellen had been needing some rest recently, she wanted to take the time to relax. Ellen. What's going on between you and President Pressgrave? Olive suddenly asked out of boredom. In response, Elian honestly replied, President Pressgrave and I know each other. As simple as that. Given that Ellen was an honest, innocent woman, Olive believed what she was told. After getting off work, Ellen bought some takeout for dinner on her way home. Later, she sat by the French windows. Captivated by the distant sunset, she couldn't help but snap a few photos of it. Then, for some reason, she felt the urge to share the photos with Jared and unconsciously sent him a text, stating, "The sunset glow is beautiful today. You should take a look at it if you have the time now." Currently, in the meeting room, the man received the message, the corners of his mouth curling upward as he read it. However, he couldn't see the sunset in the meeting room, and it made him curious whether the evening sunset today was really that beautiful. After taking a glance at the time, he dismissed the meeting and left the room. As he stood in the hallway, he admired the evening sunset, which was even more magnificent and spectacular with the bird's-eye view. He then took a photo of it before replying to Ellen. "I saw it, it's beautiful." After sending the message, Ellen was filled with sudden regret. He was busy, so how could she send him trivial text messages? Wouldn't that take up his time? Either way, it was too late to think about deleting her message now. Ellen was just berating herself for not doing something as thoughtless as this anymore when she heard a message notification and saw his reply. Instantly, her earlier frustration disappeared, and the corners of her mouth curled up in a smile. So, he was looking at it too. He even sent a picture. "Are you still at work?" Ellen asked, noticing keenly that the place he was standing at was a hallway in the company. "Yeah, I left work after my meeting ended earlier." "Have you eaten?" Ellen looked at the bread she was eating in amusement before replying, "Yes." What an honest girl, he thought. If it were anyone else, they'd be able to tell that he was going to treat her to a meal, while she told him that she'd already eaten instead, making him somewhat embarrassed to invite her out. "All right, I'll treat you to a meal next time." Upon seeing his text, Ellen lost interest in the bread in her hands. She couldn't help but let out a forced laugh. Was he planning to treat her to a meal earlier? No, I only ate some bread, so I'm still hungry. "Why don't we eat together?" Ellen replied, attempting to salvage the dinner he mentioned. Jared was just about to enter the elevator when he heard the notification. His lips curled up into a smile, making Dean, who was trailing along next to him, curious about whom he was texting. "Okay, I'll pick you up," he replied. Ellen asked, "Do you know which neighborhood I'm staying in?" "Of course, I do. I won't take long, so come to the entrance in 10 minutes. Ellen sent a smiling emoji in reply. "Okay." After their texts ended, Ellen couldn't help but blush and cover her face happily. She couldn't believe she had taken the initiative to ask him out for dinner so boldly. If he'd refused, she did not know how she would face him again. Upon looking down, she realized that she was still wearing her uniform. As she was going to have dinner with him, she decided to put on something casual. Therefore, Ellen went digging through her clothes. Soon, she found a white dress that she was most satisfied with and put it on. Although its design was nothing out of the ordinary, fortunately for her, she had a pretty face and a decent figure, so it didn't look too bad on her. With that, she took her bag and went out quickly. 10 minutes later, a gray sports car slowly came from the driveway, and she reached out to wave at it before heading over. The door of the car opened and revealed Jared in a black suit, who was exuding the charm and elegance befitting of a business elite. "You look really good in a suit." Ellen praised him. In fact, she wanted to tell him that he was the best-looking man she had seen so far. "Is that so?" Jared was in a good mood as well. He was tired of hearing compliments from others, but he felt exceptionally happy when this girl praised him. He took her to the restaurant they had been to in the past. As it was her second visit, she didn't feel constrained. Besides, it had a homey and warm atmosphere, and it was quiet and private. "Are your relatives still harassing you with phone calls?" he asked, his eyes narrowing. "Not anymore. Speaking of it, it's all thanks to you. I wouldn't have known what to do otherwise." She looked at him thankfully. As soon as he made a move, even people like Garrett obeyed him wholly. "If you find yourself in a tight situation in the future, you can just tell me and I'll solve it for you," Jared assured readily. Ellen smiled. Of course, she hoped that she wouldn't have to bother him in the future. By the way, did you know how big the apartment unit that the company assigned to me was? It's at least 2,000 square feet. She nearly forgot to tell him about this. Jared froze for a beat before he played dumb and replied, "Is that so? The company randomly assigns the units sometimes. You should take it. But I'm just a receptionist. How can I stay in such a nice place? Just enjoy your stay." Jared assured her, worried that she might notice something. With a sigh, Ellen continued, "I even asked Miss Curry if she gave me the wrong unit, but she said she didn't make a mistake." Immediately, Jared coughed and said, "The HR team is usually in charge of these things. Since there weren't any mistakes, you should just make the most out of it and stop overthinking things." Suddenly, she turned her gaze to him and blinked as she asked, "President Presgrave, don't tell me it was of your doing?" Jared was drinking from his glass and nearly choked on a mouthful of water. After hurriedly controlling his expression, he denied, "I don't have time for this sort of thing. I'm swamped with work after all." Although Ellen was a little skeptical, she couldn't press him any further, so she propped up her chin and said, "In that case, I'll work hard in the future and live up to the excellent benefits the company has given me." At this, Jared finally let out a sigh. It seemed that she had her bright moments at times as well. After they finished dinner, it was already 8:30 by the time Jared dropped her off at her house. After getting out of the car, she reminded him, "Be careful while you're on the road." He looked at her and said, "I'll leave once you're inside." Her heart turning warm, she turned around and went in, looking back with each step she took. Meanwhile, Jared was surprised by his concern for her, which seemed to have emerged involuntarily. The following day was a rest day, but Ellen had been accustomed to getting up early. Right after she woke up, she sat in front of the French window while looking at the morning scenery as well as the crowd in the nearby square, feeling inexplicably lonely. She knew that after her grandmother's death, she was really all alone now. Her uncle, Connor, the only one who was related to her by blood right now, was someone she couldn't rely on. Besides, her aunt, Olivia, prevented her from depending on him as well, so she was on her own for the rest of her life. When she thought about her future marriage and having children, she suddenly felt fearful and terrified that she would meet the wrong person and be unable to find someone to rely on if she was hurt in any way. Hence, she made up her mind to spend the rest of her life alone. In any case, she had enough money in her account to live comfortably, and as long as she worked earnestly every day and received a stable salary, she could live a moderately wealthy life alone. While she was doing her laundry, she received a call from Connor. "Ellie, I'll take you out for lunch today," Connor said on the other end of the phone. "Uncle Connor, it's fine, Do you not have any respect for me anymore? It's just a simple meal." "We haven't seen each other for some time, no," he pressed, his tone holding a hint of elderly authority. At that, Ellen had no choice but to agree. "Okay, Uncle Connor. I'll pick you up at noon." "It's fine. Just tell me the address, and I'll take a cab myself." "Fine by me. I'll send the address to you later." Upon saying that, Connor hung up. Ellen let out a sigh. In fact, she preferred to be by herself as eating with her uncle's family was constraining for her. At 10:30, Connor sent the address and urged her to be there on time. She agreed, and at 11 o'clock, she went out and took a taxi, heading straight for the restaurant. Due to the traffic, she arrived a little late and was led into a private room by the waiter soon after. There, she saw 3 other people that looked like a family at the table in addition to Connor and Olivia. "Ellie, you're here. Quick, come and have a seat." Connor greeted her enthusiastically, pulling out a chair for her. Ellen was a little bewildered by the sight. Wasn't she supposed to eat with Connor and his family? Why were there strangers here? She smiled politely and greeted, "Good to see you, Uncle Connor and Aunt Olivia. Ellie, here, let me introduce you to them." Connor said to her, "This is my old friend, Murray Fuller, and beside him is his wife, Christina. And this man here is their son, Harvey Fuller." Ellen gave the couple a courteous smile before glancing at the young man. "Nice to meet you." "Wow, she's gorgeous," Christina praised, grinning from ear to ear. "Of course, she is. All of the girls in our family are pretty," Olivia immediately replied. Harvey immediately got up to pour tea for Ellen, and she hurriedly thanked him. Ever since Ellen entered the room, Harvey's eyes had been glued to her face. He thought his date today would be just an ordinary girl, but he didn't expect the heavens to give him such a huge surprise. Ellen was one of the innocent yet pure girls whom he rarely saw. In particular, the sweet way she smiled put him in a better mood at first glance. Moreover, he had been informed about Ellen while he was on his way to the restaurant. She was a relotatee from Lockwood Village, and she even had a small fortune. Who wouldn't like a beautiful and wealthy woman? Just then, the dishes were served, and the two families ate while chatting. Ellen only had a few bites when she heard Connor's voice. "Ellie is beautiful and kind-hearted, but she seems lonely from living alone for a while now." Hearing that, Ellen hurriedly explained, "Uncle Connor, I'm doing good. I'm not lonely. Ellie, Connor just wants you to have someone to take care of you and protect you, to give you a shoulder to lean on," Olivia said. Ellen's heart skipped a beat as she had an epiphany. Did Connor invite her for a meal to set her up on a blind date? Was he trying to introduce her to a man? At that moment, Christina began to praise her son. "Harvey really is the ideal man. He has the personality and looks, and he's capable too. He's definitely the best candidate as a boyfriend and a husband. Of course. He looks talented to me." Although Olivia inwardly despised this family, she enthusiastically agreed with them on the surface. Instantly, Harvey took the initiative and said to Ellen, "Miss Rice, do you mind if we exchange contacts? I heard that you're working in Pressgrave Group, and it so happens that I work nearby. I'm sure we can meet up for a cup of coffee next time." She was about to refuse, but Olivia immediately picked up her phone and said, "Oh, I have Ellie's phone number here. I'll give it to you, so write it down." Ellie felt helpless but didn't have the nerves to lose her temper. Hence, she watched as Olivia gave Harvey her phone number, who happily called her afterward. "This is my number." Without beating around the bush, Christina said, "Miss Rice, I heard that you've been relocated. You're so lucky. That place used to be worth nothing, but I heard that many of the relocates have become millionaires now." Ellen gave her an awkward yet courteous smile. "Well, you're not wrong about that. Ellie has always been lucky." Olivia could tell that the Fullers were happy with Ellen, and she quickly added her 2 cents. After 3 glasses of wine, Connor began to speak more bluntly, saying to Ellen, "Look, Ellie, I'm going to be honest with you. Murray has been my colleague for many years, and his son, Harvey, is a good boy, so I want to match you two together. Once you get married, both of our families will become in-laws and will be able to help each other out." Ellen's mind went blank, and she hurriedly waved her hands in disagreement. "Uncle Connor, I'm not looking to get into a relationship anytime soon, much less marriage." "Oh sweetie, girls have to get married eventually. How nice is it to have someone you can rely on and who would take care of you?" Olivia cajoled from the side. Ellen's face flushed red with anger. She deeply regretted showing up for this meal. "Miss Rice, as long as you marry our son, we promise to treat you like our own daughter," Christina added, expressing her sincerity. Murray nodded as well. "Although our family is not that well off, we'll definitely treat you well." At a glance, Ellen could see that the Fullers were dressed averagely, and that Murray always had a sense of inferiority in front of Connor, as if he was not confident and was constantly trying to please him. While Ellen did not look down on them, there was nothing sincere about their faces. In fact, as they were saying nice things on the surface, their eyes were constantly sizing her up. "Not bad, Ellie. Our families know each other well, and you shouldn't be too picky at your age. As a girl, it's about time for you to get married." Connor was still a chauvinist in some ways, and he spoke without considering her feelings. With Ellen's meek appearance, no one could figure out her emotions, and they assumed that she was an easygoing person and that she would even agree to marry someone on a whim. However, while she was indeed an easygoing person, when it came to marriage, she would definitely not be fooled simply. "Uncle Connor, Aunt Olivia, I'm done with my meal. I have some other matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first." Upon saying that, Ellen picked up her bag and fled the scene without another word. If she stayed any longer, she might forget about maintaining Connor's pride and throw a tantrum right then and there. Connor and Olivia exchanged a glance, and the latter immediately chided, "How dare that girl embarrass us like this?" Despite Ellen's actions, Christina laughed benevolently. "Oh, it's fine. Girls are always shy. I'll just tell Harvey to contact her more in the future." From the way Christina was constantly placing food on his plate and urging him to eat, it was clear from a glance that Harvey was a mommy's boy. Knowing this, Olivia sneered inwardly. If Ellen married into this family, her days would definitely be difficult, as Christina didn't look like she was easy to deal with. After leaving, Ellen walked some distance before she was suddenly unable to suppress her frustration and her tears flowed out. Why was Connor doing this? Couldn't she just live a good life alone? Had they ever considered her feelings when they did this? Once lunch ended, Connor and Olivia had other business and took their leave, while the Fullers still remained seated. Without any outsiders around, the family no longer had any regard for their conversation. "Harvey, it's up to you to win Ellen over. Once you do, make her pay half of the down payment, then you can pay your mortgage off together. Since she's rich, you don't have to worry about not being able to pay." "Mom, I'll definitely make her your daughter-in-law," Harvey promised. Murray supported him as well. "We aren't that well off, but things will get easier if we have a rich daughter-in-law." Harvey's eyes glowed with determination. Not only was Ellen pretty, but she was also wealthy. He had to win her over, even if it meant going through blood, sweat, and tears. After getting into the car with Connor, Olivia fumed, "Ellen is so ungrateful. We're just doing this for her own good, but all she does is give us that disdainful look. We can't blame her for that. It's our fault for not telling her about the blind date," Connor reasoned. "Does Ellen think that she can marry a millionaire now that she's gotten somewhat rich? Is she trying to find someone even wealthier?" Olivia said sarcastically. "They've already met, so things are up to them now," he said. Hearing that, Olivia felt a surge of joy. Upon hearing that Ellen was a relotatee, the Fullers nearly had their eyes bulging out of their sockets. They'd definitely not let her go until they had their hands on her. Ellen had just reached home when she received a text from Harvey. "Miss Rice, are you free tonight? Let's have dinner with just the two of us." Upon seeing the text, she felt nothing but irritation, not wanting to be disturbed at the moment. However, as he was the son of Connor's friend, she put up with it and rejected him courteously. "I'm sorry, but I already have plans tonight." Relentless, Harvey sent her yet another text. "Miss Rice, I had a really good impression of you after today. I wonder what you think of me."
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.